So this is the beginning of turn 4 in Italian-Ottoman War, sometime early 1912. And starting with the Italian turn, we collect 11 activation points and then start to use these for some recruiting. For one, General Frugioni Frugoni is brought into the theater, as well as the 20th, the 50th, the 79th, and the 93rd Infantry Regiments. And these are all deployed to the staging area, and then activations will be used to amphibiously land them. And that is what happens. The troops launch an amphibious landing near Cirta, and then they go ahead, as shown in the picture here, and attack the town. And this town is actually defended by the 1st Composite Regiment as well as the 42nd Rifle Battalion. And they have a base which represents, a military organization there. So the Italians do have some support from the Navy, as is shown in this next picture. And they also have an aircraft that flies, which will help the Italians to possibly get advantage. And in this case, the Italians do win the advantage, and the Ottoman force is quite easily destroyed, and Cirta capitulates. The aircraft that were used have to roll on a table to determine their fate, and in this case, they simply need to be repaired. So they're going to be moved down the turn track a couple of turns before they come back. But you can see in this final picture that leader Frugoni is in complete control of Cirta now. Now, Cirta is a coastal town, but I don't believe there is a port here. The Italians decide to spend some more activation points, and they convert Misurda and Benghazi to military bases. So they already had trenches there, or entrenchments, so they've spent the points to make them into full military bases. And then General Garioni sends some more of his colonial troops from Benghazi to capture Barca, which is undefended, and you can see that in the picture there. That brings turn 4 to a close for the Italians, but we go to the Ottoman portion of the turn. On the event table, the first thing that happens is the Senussi Rebellion event occurs. So several Senussi units appear, and a base is deployed at the oasis in Kufra. Then some activation points are spent, and the Libyans recruit 4 composite wings to deploy in the town of Agadabia. And then the Ottomans recruit a light infantry and a cavalry at Marada. And then they build some entrenchments at Tobruk and Derna, which are both port towns. There are no attacks by the Ottomans at this time, and so that brings turn 4 to a close. And you can see in this picture here what that area around Tobruk and the desert to the south of that looks like. Next, we go to turn 5, starting with the Italians, and the event is morale check, so we don't get a lot of activation points here, only 5, but the Italian commander, Garioni, uses an activation point to consolidate his troops for an attack against Derna, which is entrenched with a composite unit, a gendarme, I think. And the Italians end up gaining the advantage in the attack, so they get to fire first. They strike the port town, and you can see it depicted in this picture here. And this attack is very successful. The Turkish unit is destroyed, the entrenchments are destroyed, and Derna falls to the Italians. Then Garioni continues spending more points and marches to the western outskirts of Tobruk and attacks the Ottoman Coastal Defense Unit, which is deployed there along with entrenchments. and the Italians again win the advantage, and the coastal defense is overrun. Tobruk falls to the Italians, and you can see that in this picture. Then Garioni secures Benghazi, Derna, and Tobruk, and that's pretty much ending his activity over in that area. He's got a fairly good control set up. The last thing that I decide to do here is to have the Italians perform an Aegean Sea operation. This costs 2 activation points, I believe, and I'm using all 3 naval formations. So this all happens off map, and as it turns out, I rolled a 6. So on the first try at this type of operation, the Italians achieved a decisive naval victory, and the Aegean islands are secured to the Italians, and the Italians gain 4 activation points from this, and the Ottomans lose 2 activation points. Then in the aftermath of this event is that the game is now going to end on turn 9 rather than turn 10, and it's basically assumed that the Ottomans are seeking peace, so they're not going to be able to recruit any more Turkish units. They're only going to be able to recruit Senussi and Libyan units, and that basically means they're going for peace, but the Libyans are going to continue to rebel and take victory points away from the Italians. I'll say this was kind of a lucky die roll for the Italians, but such is life in these games. Then we go to the Ottoman turn. The Ottoman player recruits what he can under these conditions. Again, has to focus on Senussi and Libyan units. The Senussi move 2 composite units right from the southern map out of the oasis at Kutra to toward the ports. They're still out of range, so they have to spend another activation. But finally, the Senussi, I'm pronouncing that wrong, assemble a force to attack the Italians near at Tobruk, actually. So this is one of those ports that the Italians want to keep control of. And in this case, the Ottoman player wins the advantage and launches an attack, and they successfully play the uprising marker, which is what helps them to get the locals to join in the attack against the Italians. So that's kind of neutralizes the benefit, the defensive terrain benefit of being in the town, because the locals are joining in the attack. So in this case, the Italians are damaged. They lose 3 steps and have to retreat. So what is left is this colonial engineer regiment. It retreats toward the port at Derna, and Tobruk falls back into the hands of the rebels. Anyway, that brings turn 5 to a close, and if you're interested in this game, continue watching for the next video, which will cover the next turn or 2, and have a nice day.